Hello and welcome to another amazing episode of Creative Appetite. Today I'm joined by my good friends Benny and Deano from SCF Fishing, SCF Australia, which is a fishing media-based company based in Australia. But there is a lot more to it, so I'm going to let Deano jump on and fully give you the rundown.
Righto. So I guess SCF stands for Sustainable Fishing, Clean Waterways and Future Generations. And yeah, it started about 5 years ago, seriously, just running a couple of like small events, and yeah, we were doing some really cool stuff that hadn't been done in this space before, and it sort of got a lot of traction from the coolest people in the industry, and it's just snowballed from there. And yeah, now we're doing bigger, better stuff, and yeah, it's pretty crazy, to be honest.
It seems like crazy because I'm not obviously into fishing, but a mutual friend of ours, Bonnie, who works for you guys, she was like, "I'll come down to this fishing event. Like, it's really cool. It's got like a really nice community-based feel to it." And I was like, "All right, I'll come down and suss it out." And by the end of it, I was like, "I actually want to go out and buy a boat and start fishing," because like it just had that, like you could sense that everyone that was there for the right reasons. Like it wasn't just like, you know, bring your friends and there's like half people there like, I don't really care about this, but I'm here for my friend. Like everyone, like individually that was there, it was like this big, you could just feel like, you're like, oh man, this is a cool place to be. Like it's a nice community vibe.
Yeah, well, I guess that's what we started doing at the start. There was a lot of division in our industry. Like a lot of people just used to talk shit about each other and rip on each other and didn't like each other. And we sort of started breaking down those boundaries and bringing all different people from all different like aspects of our industry together. And yeah, and just having a kick-ass time when we got together, and we just made it about that. And it's just been evolving. And like through our events, we like sell tickets to our events, but we're selling it like an experience that they can't experience anywhere else. And like, if you come to one of our events, like you'll understand. But yeah, until then,
yeah, you should definitely, if you can get to one, I would recommend getting to one from someone who doesn't come from that industry, because I think it was to me, it was like all about adventure and like enjoying your weekends and enjoying like your friends. And I don't know, it was just a very wholesome like feel to it, and I'm all about that, especially with this podcast and stuff. So when was like the start, like, because obviously it's where it is now and where it's gonna be is obviously different, but I'm sure it started from like a real grassroots perspective.
yeah, well, I guess it started from like things not going right, like in my previous jobs and my previous careers and stuff like that. Like back in the, like I'm a boilermaker by trade, did that for 10 years. I hated every fucking second of it, and I still hate it now, and I'll never do it again.
I don't know one boilermaker that actually likes their job.
I found a video on my phone there like a while back now, and it's just me taking a selfie with all my welding gear on the side of a mountain, just like pissing out sweat, and I'm like, this is fucked. And it just reminded me, like, I used to say that to myself on repeat every single day when I was at work. Like, I'd just be there just going in my head, this is fucked, this is all day, 10 hours a day. So at some point I had to change that, and yeah, I tried a heap of different things. I went out west for a few years and ended up saving up a bit of cash, and I invested in a bar back in the day, and it was a good bar, Malula Bar, and ended up being like one of the coolest bars on the coast for a number of years. And
It's still there, right?
It's still there, yeah. Learned like a lot of things about business there, and we ended up sort of ballsing that up too, to be honest. And we did a couple other little bits and pieces, and they sort of didn't go to plan either. And yeah, pretty much at a point there, I realised I was going to end up with nothing. I was going to lose everything I'd sort of worked towards like my whole life. And I guess... yeah, I guess like I figured like when I finally lost everything at the end of it, like I wanted something, and all it was is I was like, you know what, I'm going to run this event. I'm going to run a little fishing event, and like when all this sort of like goes under, at least I'm going to have like my little ray of light there to work towards, and maybe be able to rebuild something from there. And I guess that's sort of how it started, and yeah, the rest is history.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy that you say that, because a friend of mine that I had on the podcast recently as well, he was like into BMX and stuff, and he just started getting like real mad depression, and he was saying when he was going to see a psychiatrist, he was like, the psychiatrist was like explaining everything to him and stuff, and he's like, the only thing you keep talking about is like BMX. So he's like, just go do like BMX. And it's similar, like it's funny that you say that you're like, oh, I'm just going to do this event because that to me feels right. Like that's what I really enjoy. And that seems to be like the running narrative for people like around our age. You get to this point where you're working this shitty ass job and you're like, fuck, I just want to like do something that makes me happy regardless of whether I earn money or I don't. But at least I know I've tried and gave it a good shot.
Yeah, that's exactly sort of how I felt at the time, and I definitely didn't think it was going to turn out to be like this. Like, absolutely 100% nothing like this. I was just thinking we'd have like a really cool event that we'd run each year and bring people together and just enjoy what we do. And I guess like the formula of the event come from, because I've been going to them my whole life, and it come from like what I'd want if I went to one, and I just put it all together and we got the formula right, and yeah, they're sick. Our events are sick, all of them.
It is. Your events come with like high energy.
Yeah.
It's like nailing everything. It's like high energy, community vibes, fun. Like it's just, I think that's why people would be attracted to it, even if you, even if you weren't like, if you weren't into fishing. Like it seems like you could just turn up to this event and just be there for like that, the environment and the community around it.
Yeah, well, our Shimano King of Kings last year, we got there and it was basically a hurricane/cyclone happening over the weekend. And there was 100 teams there. They were all in Yeppoon for the weekend, and it just turned into a massive party. Like everyone just like had probably more fun than they would have if they fished all weekend. It was a 3-day party. It was sick. Some of the boys like that was the best event we've ever been to.
That's so good. And how did Benny? How did you jump in on this?
It's interesting actually how Deano and I met, because it was actually at an event, which is crazy because it was at the third Sunshine Coast event? Would have been the third one.
Yep.
So same thing as like what you're kind of saying, like someone that I knew was like going to the event, a few of the boys that I knew, and they were like, "Oh, just come down and say hey and whatever." And I was actually getting out of the Sunny Coast that weekend because I didn't want, because there was so many fishermen. I knew there was just this influx of fishermen on the Sunny Coast, and my parents were up. I was like, let's go over to Stratty instead, because there's going to be all these Desmond fishermen there because of this stupid comp. But anyway, I ended up rocking up the comp with a few of the boys, and Dino, we all know the same sort of group of people, and the second I got there, I was just like, I want to be a part of this. How do I be a part of this? Like no shit. It was kind of it was a little bit like, when you kind of like, all right, I'm like known for like, when I see something I want to be a part of, I get in there somehow. Like I'll just get my nose in it and I'll just start working it. Then all of a sudden I'm like, I'm there. It's a gift.
I am who I am.
But so like, I guess like I met Dean that night. So when I sort of sat there for the brief, it was on the briefing, and I sat there and there was all these checks up on the wall, which were the prizes for each species of fish. And I noticed that like brands had sponsored them, like electrical companies, local restaurants, just local community, like local sort of businesses. And I was like, oh, and I just started a business. I started a poke bowl place in Mooloolaba called Raw and Rice. It was like a poke bowl shop. And I sort of went up to Dean after the briefing, and I was like, hey, is there any chance I can like sponsor this next year? Like I'll be keen as blah, blah, blah. And he was like, oh, do you own Raw and Rice? He's like, that's my favourite thing ever. Yeah. He's like, I used to fucking like laugh at that shit because I thought it was squirrel food and whatever. But and then but he's like, I had one and it's the best thing ever. And I was like,
I was like proper addicted to him at this time too. I was just like, yes, this is amazing.
Yeah. So that's how it started, and then that's how we sort of. And then I pissed off for the weekend. I went fishing, and I think it was a few months later, the King of Kings, and it was the first. Yeah, the first King of Kings was on, and the same guys that invited me to the event, to the Sunshine Coast event, they invited me to go up to the King of Kings in Yeppoon, and I road tripped up there, and we ended up rocking up. Dano had like this penthouse thing. Like it was ludicrous.
It was the best penthouse in your
Yeah, and we just rolled in there and we're like, oh, we're staying here, sick, and then we just got proper like red hot. Proper. And we like all of a sudden the sun's coming up and like we're like, oh, we're gonna fish for a few days now. So we spent the whole weekend together and we vibed out a bit, and I think after that weekend when we got back to the Sunny Coast, it was like Dean was like, let's go fishing. Then we started fishing a bit, didn't we? And then I have kind of a chefing background, so a bit of a thing at that time in the fishing industry in terms of content stuff was like the catch and cook thing, and it was a bit of a thing. So we went on a catch and cook trip. Dean's like, oh, do you want to do a catch and cook for me? Like, so we went on that trip up to 1770, yeah.
Same thing happened again.
Same thing again. The car ride up there was really interesting, but because I had this thing blending in my head, and it was so on the way home from the Yeppoon comp, the King of Kings, the two guys I went with, they were sitting in the front seat and they were talking about, oh, you know, like the comp's cool, but it'd be cool if this happened and that happened, and they were kind of like back and forth about what they thought, their thoughts on the ultimate comp. And I was sitting in the back doing what I do and like just blending, like going, oh yeah, blah blah. And then I was like, I remember thinking that's when the TFI thing came about, and I sort of started thinking about it. And then we went on that trip, and I said, it was like 2 a.m, we're driving to 1770 to do this trip, and I was like, hey bro, what do you reckon about this comp idea I've got? And I sort of pitched it to him, and that's the rest is history from there, because the second I told him about TFI, so TFI is that big content comp we just ran.
Oh, the one at where you guys work out of, that one?
Yeah, no, so basically, yeah, it's
oh, no, it was the first invitation. Oh,
Yeah,
something.
invitational,
Invitational,
yeah.
right, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, so I pitched that, and ever since then, it was just like, Dino was just like, bro, that's fire, let's rip in. So that was 2.5 years ago.
Yeah, probably
Nearly
3 now, yeah.
And it's taken that long to pull that one together, because it's a beast of a thing, and that's kind of, yeah, well, I'm sure we'll get into that later in the chats, but...
It looked hectic from the video. I was like, this looks insane.
Well, yeah, it was just, you know, it's never been done in the fishing industry before, or in any industry, in terms of, you know, I guess getting content creators together and getting them all to sort of try and content off against each other.
Yeah, the project ended up reaching 14 million people in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
It's like the biggest thing that ever happened in our industry.
Yeah.
That's
And
crazy.
that's just the Australia one. We're running an international one this year as well, and it's expected to reach over 50 million. So
Yeah.
you'll have to stay tuned for that chat. We won't touch on that today.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
we'll be coming back on anyway.
Essentially what it is, I'll just give you a rundown on it quickly, like just to live a bit of the backstory. Like, it's basically, we invited 10 of the best content creators and anglers, adventure guys in this sort of content space, which is YouTube, all that sort of jazz, came together, and they had 2 weeks to go and film, edit, and produce a 20-minute film based on topwater fishing on the Great Barrier Reef. They gave it to us. We put it onto our app, and it went out to a public vote, so you could watch it and then vote for your favourite team. So it was kind of this big thing where we had all these really like well-known, high-profile content creators, everyone from really good fishermen, like high-profile fishermen, to four-wheel drivers, and then we had like Shawnee, like the Mad Hueys and stuff, and Explore Life guys. So like some really diverse people just giving us these really cool 20-minute films that were one-off. They could only be seen on the platform for a 2-week period, and then they're never seen again.
That's sick. That's so cool.
And there was $70,000. Like, there was massive cash on the line. $70,000 for first place.
180K cash and prizes total.
Yeah.
And then also that app, we just literally built it in our office, like me, Bon, and a couple of the rookies, and it ended up making like the number 24 on the top charts, like for an app. Like, it just went psycho.
That was crazy.
That is crazy. Like, do you ever like looking back, like right at the start, you're like, we're gonna turn this thing into this crazy.
The funny thing is, we've both known we were always going to kick ass at whatever we've done. And the second we linked up, like, the world was our oyster, Benny? Like,
yeah, well, we were talking, and I remember talking in the car, and we're just like, one stand, I was like, bro, that's huge. And I was like, think about this, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, whoa. And then he's like, think about this, blah. And I was like, we're doing it. Let's just get it. And it took a few years for us to, I guess, align, like, I guess, like, mentally and like, you know, take the business to a point where we could have time to do that, because it was obviously, there was commitments with other comps and all that sort of stuff, and then obviously build like the team to be able to do it as well, and have the infrastructure and have the space to do it in, and you know, there's a lot of moving parts that it took to sort of bring it to the point where we were able to sort of immerse ourselves into it and actually execute it properly, because we couldn't have just done it with us two, no way.
Couple of stallions like yourself, you're just like, oh no. It's crazy though, because you do need a whole team behind you. But I think for a lot of people that like as patrons, when you're watching something, they only see that 20-minute video, So to them, they're like, this is the sickest thing ever. But to you guys, there's like years of all the pressure, all this, like maybe someone's sick and they can't turn up to a meeting. You're like, oh, like you need to be here for this meeting. Like all that kind of stuff that I guess a lot of people don't really see because they don't need to see it. But like, it's like all the pressure for you guys to like put this on and hope that people receive it the way that you guys can envision it.
100%, man. It was a bit of a balls on the line kind of move. Like there was a lot of, we sort of like put wheels in motion, I guess, 9 months to a year beforehand by securing a really good office space that gave us a bit of like, you know, because once you got the cool office and the space to have staff and the infrastructure to start to build your infrastructure, they're those steps that sort of get you to the point where, I mean, I guess it does a few things. It gives you the confidence to sort of go, right, we're legit now, let's do it. And it also looks from the outside in that you're legit and that you're not going to balls it up as well. You know, like if you're just doing it out of your mum's bloody garage, people aren't taking you seriously.
Nah, the first 3 or 4 years were out of my brother's lounge room.
Yeah.
So
we made a few big moves and invested a lot of, money and time and energy and obviously into staff.
Pretty much every cent in the last 18 months went into that infrastructure to get us to a point where we could execute that event.
Yeah. So there was a lot. Yeah. It was a big process.
It's a lot. That's a lot of pressure for you. Like if it just turned and just went to shit.
Oh yeah,
it's done. Like
it nearly did a few times, but we're solid and we're just like right, damage control. Let's like fix this.
We just adapted on the fly, and fixed it.
Yeah, and that's, I guess, when you have a vision like that, like and you have someone that you're working with that you're so like, you just know that you got it. Like you know that if you fuck up, he's got you, and vice versa, and if you hit a problem, you can work it out together. And if you're in a position like that, it's like you're happy to charge because you're not really scared. You're just kind of like, all right, if we make a fuck up, it's going to be staunch to fix it, but we'll get it done, you know, like, so like I said, it gives you put yourself in a spot where you have enough confidence to sort of actually like tip your toe in and then you're diving in and, you know, there's no turning back.
Yeah. I'd like to say I wasn't scared, but like when it finished, I realized that I was actually terrified every day up until we were up in Airlie Beach and we'd finished the announcement and I'm sitting there and I already told Benny, I said, be prepared for maybe 1 to 2 weeks of bad backlash just in case, like, we don't know what the hell's going to happen, you know what I mean? And I remember just sitting there, like we got back to Brooksy's or whatever afterwards and I was like on my second drink and I'm like, anything on the phones, Benny? He's like, no, nothing. I'm like, no way. We fucking done this.
Yeah, we pulled
it off. And then all that, and then I just like I was a different person. Like I'd been under so much pressure all year because at any point it could have just went fucking. Like I was confident that we could salvage no matter what happened at any time, but there was no guarantee. Like stuff can happen that's out of your control, but we ended up just pulling it together, and we're pretty proud of how we conducted ourselves and sort of got there in the end. Yeah,
100%. Because you're dealing with like 10 of the pretty like there's some precious personalities there, you know what I mean? Like these guys are like guys that they think they're the best of the best. You know, they're quite competitive. They and they are the best of the best. I mean, and there's just a lot of personalities to deal with and a lot of like internal stuff, and you want to keep everyone happy, and then you kind of, I mean, you've got eyes on you because it was such a big thing in the industry.
This is the most important thing.
Yeah, it was like all eyes were on us. It was kind of like we did it just before Chrissy. Everyone, I guess, in terms of industry, like the whole industry's like had their plan to roll out into Chrissy, and then we just brought this thing in and just flipped it on its head. We had like 10 people that anyone in the industry would kill to have those 10 people together doing something for them. Like it's not really possible in any other format except how we did it, and we just kind of put this big old boom, like, what's going on here? And everyone was just kind of like, what the fuck is happening?
It come from nowhere too.
Yeah, we kept it harsh.
We worked in silence, and then it just went bang.
Yeah. So, like, we had eyes on us. There was a lot of pressure. There was a lot of, you know, and people were letting us know they were watching us and stuff too, like, just by, like, little, you know, how it, it's just kind of, works like that.
There was hinklings of like people not wanting us to succeed and stuff too. Like it was
Yeah.
all the pressure was there, and we were under the spotlight, and
We knew that'd be the case, but
we
it's kind of
prepared for it. Yeah, we did.
So, and having a really solid team behind us as well. Like we have Sarah, we have Dano's younger brother, who's an absolute legend, and Bon, and we just had the whole crew with us. You're confident that if you got a good team behind you, you're pretty confident you can pull it off, and you're having event sessions to each and every person.
One of the best things about our team too is they've all come to us. Like they've just the right person's appeared at the right time, and like our team is fire. Like
Yeah, straight up.
Yeah,
It's quite. What Dean and I have this thing. It's like, sorry. Sorry, guys, I smoke.
Too much vaping.
Vape. Sorry, vape. I vape.
The vaping.
No, I'm old school. I actually smoke. I put effort in. I'm going to find a lighter, go outside,
he's adamant about this. He's like, I'm not going to smoke in my bed. I'll vape in my bed.
Vaping's lazy. Right? Lazy. No, straight up, but I don't even know what I was saying. Yeah, so I guess like before we started talking about how lazy vapors are, I guess Dean and I, like a big thing where like we're so big on this, and I think the more we grow as a business, and the more we sort of learn how to operate within ourselves, really, like, and trust ourselves. We're so big on like if something feels right, just like grab it and get, like, if it feels too good to be true, or like if you know how you have connections sometimes with people in business or even in life, and you just kind of like, that was cool, like this is cool, like grab it and go with it. Seriously, it's been the best thing for us ever, and it always pays off. It never rails us, eh?
Nah. And just recently too, we also think the opposite. If something's starting to feel bad, or it's difficult, or we're like forcing it, it's just like, you know what, that's gone. We've got a saying for it. It's called the Mossy. It's like an experience we had probably a year or two ago.
Sorry, Mossy.
Yeah, it's like...
Sorry, mate, Shane, yeah.
But yeah,
you taught us a good lesson.
If it doesn't feel right, it's got to go immediately. Yeah. And the whole team knows that too. If something feels right, they know we're going to act on it. Something doesn't feel right, it needs to get sorted ASAP, or it's gone. It's like bang.
I'm a big believer in like following your gut and your own intuition, especially. And like when you meet people, like when I met Deano and you boys at the event, I was like you could just feel it, like, all right, this is it.
Yeah, we're cool. These are my people.
Yeah, it's like these are the boys. You were like we're gonna get along. Everything makes sense.
Yeah.
And then actually leading up to this, because people won't know this, but Deano and I have run into each other about 4 times now. And every single, like, so the first time I was at the event, I was like, all right, boys, come on the podcast. Love to have you on. They're like, yeah, no worries. And then that kind of like went to the wayside. And then I saw him out again. I was like, Deano, you got to come on, mate. That's no worries. And every time we've been drunk, so it's like a passing conversation. It's like, all right, yeah, we're all G'd up for this. Yeah. And then you just forget about it the next day. And then last Sunday, Sunday.
Sunday.
I saw him out. I was like, nah. I was like, this time I'm cementing this in before I go to Bali. I'm locking it in. We're gonna get this sorted. I was like, it's ridiculous.
I like it.
So that's how now we're sitting here having this good old yarn.
And Sunday got a little out of hand, didn't it?
So I think this is I'm a big believer in, if the moment feels right, then just embrace the moment. Because if you don't, like, time, you never get time back, and moments will pass you. So if you don't fully give it your best at that moment, then you're always going to look back and go, oh man, like, I could have, or maybe I could have said that, or maybe I could have asked him to do this. Like, you just never know what opportunities may arise unless you be fully present. And I think a lot of people in life, they don't do that because they might be scared or nervous, which is fine. Like, every personality is different. But if I could say one thing, I would say, if in doubt, just try to be fully present and just give your best. And then if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But at least you know within yourself that you're like, well, at least I tried.
Totally, man. Totally. That's a big thing. And I think, I guess society can kind of dull you down a bit there too, because you're like, oh, I shouldn't talk out of shop, or I shouldn't, I don't want to be a sweater or whatever. Like, it's like, just be yourself. And I think once you sort of find yourself and you trust your own intuition, and you know what's funny is, like, my mentor taught me, my business mentor going way back taught me, there's no place for emotion in business. Straight up, there's just not. And in terms of like cutthroat business and old school business, I think that is applicable for sure. But like, things have changed, and I mean, things have definitely changed, and our generation's changed, and we sort of operate more I guess, freely and with a bit more creativity. And creativity is an emotion in a sense. So, you know, like it's kind of that whole mentality is going out the window. And I've sort of I remember I used to go into business meetings, right? And I used to get so emotional because I had this brand that I loved and so much. I was so passionate about it, man. And I'd get like, they would try and like be like, we should make these changes. And I'd be so emotional that I'd nearly cry because I was like, no. Like,
you're not seeing the vision. You're not getting the vision, brother.
And then he'd pull me aside and be like, man, you got to just like chirp down a bit. Cause like, you know, you're sitting in front of all these guys with suits on or whatever. And they're all like been taught to like, business, it's this, that, there's a recipe, there's, you know, this is how you make money, this is how you do this. And I would be like, right, I'll fix that, I'll fix it, I won't get emotional. But I mean, you know, there's a place for like your personality and emotions definitely when it comes to something that you're passionate about. And yeah, intuition in business is key, I think. It really is key. And
yeah. Well, that is something like you just mentioned before about like people being more creative. And I do want to say that I think because like originally, I could be wrong, but like fishing and all that like forward driving and stuff was never like the people that congregated to do those kind of activities were more like blokey bloke, real Aussie, or I'm just speaking for Australia. I don't know about other countries, but you know, they were like, we don't care about creativity. We don't care about like all these actors, feelings, all that kind of shit, you know?
Yeah.
And now that YouTube's starting to like kick off and people like Explore Life or like Brody Moss or whoever, you know, the Mad Hueys, all those kind of boys are starting to like show that you can still be creative but do the things that you love. It seems like now the younger generation are coming through and they're really like starting to shine. And it's so good to see that, you know, creativity and the blokey bloke kind of activities are starting to like coincide with each other. And it's like, it's nice to like, and I feel like if you are doing those things, you start to become more open with an understanding of like the other side, like actors or whatever it may be, and you can see how they can correlate together without having to be like, nah, fuck that, man. I don't feel like those things, or like I'm not into creativity because you know that's. But I feel like those barriers are starting to break down now with all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Even with your event, like it's like putting that on such a pedestal and showing that we're gonna get all these like crazy teams to put these like creative videos together. Like that's creativity in itself. Like they're going out there, they're thinking about it. They're like, all right, we need to make this look good in a certain way. Yeah. And these are the people that younger kids look up to that probably wouldn't normally gravitate towards creativity because they're like, it traditionally was seen with like actors or like dancers or what, like, you know what I mean? Yeah. But now that the power of social media, everyone's like, no, I can do this and make money off it, and that's sick.
Yeah.
Funny you say that.
Yeah, it's funny.
Next event. Yeah.
Funny you say that. Yeah. So, Dan, do you want to? You can talk.
This man's been sitting back. He's like,
so what we're doing off the back of, I guess that whole content creators, that competition where we're sort of creating a space for people to, I guess what TFI was, it was creating a space for these guys to really showcase what they do in like, we call it like the big dogs comp. It was kind of like, these are the guys that are the best of the best at what they do. They do weekly content. They sort of, that's their job. We created a space for them to really sort of like, it's like the Formula One of fishing. You know what I mean? It's the Formula One of the guys that do this sort of stuff on a weekly basis on YouTube. And it's, the whole thing is about, you know, it encapsulates everything that is to be a really good content creator. And that's, you know, figuring out, planning your content, executing your content, then you go into the voting period where you sort of have to like leverage your audience a little bit, sort of get awareness around you, get those people to sort of like pepper them, but not pepper them too much so that they don't hate you because you're just like, you know those guys. We all know them.
We know those guys.
But it's sort of that whole process, and I guess we created a platform for them, and also in terms of industry stuff, we wanted people to take them, see how like valuable the content creation space is, because that's where everything's going in terms of like brands and stuff. If you want to sell something, that's how you sell things these days. That's everyone's watching YouTube. Everyone, TV's out, all that sort of stuff. It's funny I say that.
Just threw his TV out. Yeah. Just bought a new one.
But yeah, so we also off the back of TFI, so we're doing an amateurs film comp. So this is basically, it's TFI on an amateur level. So anyone can go in it. You can submit your film, and the winner of this amateurs film comp gets a wild card entry into the Big Boys Club, the TFI. So they'll be one of 10 teams into it. So we're talking like anyone. Like if you're a fisherman and you thought you had what it takes to sort of,
you could do a better job than the boys.
yeah, you get whipped in and you get a shot to do it. So we're sort of creating a space for, like, I guess it's like the proving grounds. It's the junior development program for YouTubers, content creators, like even just how, like that handling yourself on social media. I don't have social media. I've never had Instagram or Facebook, believe it or not.
That could have been dangerous.
Where can they find you, Benny?
Yeah, I was about to say, I was like,
you can find me out now.
only on Hinge. You can only find me on
Dano's my manager now.
Pretty much.
He's actually my PR.
If you want to contact Benny, just reach out to any of our social handles and someone will get onto him for you.
Yeah. In like a week or two. But basically, to even just to handle yourselves in terms of a business on social media, there's a way to do it properly, and I guess you'd know that, and there's a way to not do it as well. So we're just sort of creating this space where we can sort of like, show people and nurture people through the experience and give them the platform to sort of get seen, because there's so many people creating content these days. Like, I don't know, like in our industry, if you want to, there's people that like in the fishing industry, you can go onto YouTube and you can watch them, right? But if you want to, you kind of watch them, you're like, I'd love to see someone new. It's so hard to find new stuff because there's so much. You know what I mean?
It's super
hard.
saturated.
You just don't really
Even
know.
for this, there's like, I think there's more now, but there's 4 million podcasts out right now.
Yeah.
So like me in the scheme of things is like, you may as well go kick the can across the road. Like I'm nothing. Like
exactly. Well, think about this in terms of your position. Like, imagine if there was a space or an opportunity for you to sort of go into this competition where it gives you direct access to like all this massive audience where people sort of like, if you win or you sort of like get noticed, you're like slingshotted into the Big Boys League, So that's what we're doing. Yeah, immediately. Yeah. So
and it's proper Big Boys League too, because if you win, you get into the Oz one.
Yeah, if you get into Oz one, you win Oz one, which is crazy if you're an amateur, but you're straight into international. And the international fishing industry is the biggest recreational pastime activity in the world. So it's bigger than anything else. It has more recreation. Yeah, it's crazy.
So kids, actually quit school.
Yeah, don't golf. Don't golf.
Don't do any of this other stuff. It's a waste of time. Go buy yourself a red camera. Drop a couple of K on that.
Yeah,
and
go
then
on. A couple of K.
And then no. That's honestly this is what I was saying. Like, this is what I said at the start. I was like, you guys really think about community and think about like providing platforms and gateways to people that are, because a lot of people coming up might not have a lot of money. They might only be operating off something small, but they do have something special. They just need to be nurtured. And you guys are actually nurturing people through this. This is why I actually like the whole thing, because I'm like, yeah, this is, you can see it, you can feel it. You're like, yeah, this is, they genuinely give I'm not going to swear, but they genuinely care about.
Are we not supposed to swear?
No, you can, but
Okay.
I feel like if I swear all the time, then
Yeah, it's rough.
I'll sound like a pelican.
Okay.
So I'm trying to quiet
Pelican's
it.
actually my favourite bird, just saying that.
But yeah, it's unreal. Like, it's basically, because remember, like back in school, you'd have like those assignments, and they'd never go anywhere. So it wouldn't matter how much effort you put into those assignments, you're only going to get an A. Yeah. Where this, if you put a shitload of effort into this, this could potentially change your whole life forever.
Yeah.
And it will change your life forever.
Yeah.
Whoever wins,
Straight
like that's
up.
it. It's like you are now, and you can be the next, like, I know I use Brody Moss because like I watch, like, because he's huge. He's massive.
Huge.
Yeah.
Or
so I guess, like even if you don't win, like, and you get seen, like there's going to be, this is like a scout, like in terms of like a platform for brands to find the next guy, the next up and coming person they want to sponsor or something. Like there's going to be, brand managers and guys that recruit, I guess, do like sponsorship stuff for brands, watching these videos, looking for the person they like the best. Even if you don't win, like you're getting seen, you're getting sort of it's a big slingshot. So it's pretty cool.
What is good fishing content? Because I have a friend of mine, and he's a freak of a fisherman. Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to plug him, but like I've spoken to him about his like, I was like, dude, you should start a YouTube. Like, he does like freshwater fishing, catching cod and stuff, and he catches like ridiculous big cod, but he doesn't he doesn't really put in the effort when it comes to like filming and stuff. He's like, oh, it's just hard. But like he genuinely can fish, which I didn't even think was a thing because I was like, you know, it's kind of like a lucky game. But anyways, what I'm trying to say is like, how do you guys, like, what is your vision on what is good content and what does that kind of look like?
We sort of worked that out throughout that event. We had some ideas on how it'd all play out and what people would sort of like resonate with and what they'd vote for and who they'd vote for and stuff like that. And it turns out people just need to like the person who's doing it. It doesn't matter what type of fishing you're doing or how good you are or whatever. If you're like a great person and you're doing some cool stuff and people can relate to what you're doing, that's all it is. It's just like be you, and if people like you, that's great fishing content. Everything else is a bonus.
I think just getting out there, like we found a lot off the back end of just looking at some like doing some reporting off the back end of the TFI that we just ran, because we had a lot of people sort of watch it, so we had a lot of data there. We sort of found like a big percentage of people that were really interested in it weren't so much fishermen. Excuse me. That was sort of like smoking.
real smoking.
Actual smoker. None of this vape shit.
It's not. I've been sick. Oh, yeah. How do you work that? Don't worry, I used to be dead. So like... Holy shit. So we found a lot of people... And I think the Brody Moss thing is perfect. Like, I think the reason that guy got so big and why he's so successful is because he lives in the most incredible place in the world. He does the most awesome shit every single day. And people kind of just live, like, people want to live vicariously through him. Like, people from the major cities, like, we had data, like, that showed, like, a bulk amount of people that wanted to watch this were from Melbourne.
Yeah, from all the capital cities.
Yeah, capital cities, and I guess they're the kind of people that they might get an opportunity sort of once a year to go on a fishing trip, right? Or to go to an island and see some tropo stuff and like hang out with a chick with a good booty and a bikini, you know, like right. But yeah, so like there's a big percentage of people that want to watch YouTubers and content creators that just want to escape from their daily grind, man. And like they want to get home for 20 minutes and just put their headphones on or sit in their office or watch on their laptop or whatever and just live vicariously through this experience that's happening on the other side of the world through a screen and just get away from their life for a bit, you know? They don't
I've noticed that. And what I will say to that is stop. This is something that I found recently, me personally, is that I do all this stuff and I watch it, but I watch more of it rather than going out and doing it. And I'm like, it's kind of like when you go home and sit and watch the TV, like when you were younger, you used to watch TV and just get absorbed and consumed with it. And you're like, and you start daydreaming. You're like, I should be doing this. Yeah. When the reality of it is if you actually turn off all that shit and actually go out and go do it, you're doing it. You're living it. Like that's the moment.
Right,
like,
bro.
So I would say 20% watch and then like 80% go out there and actually like live it, because it's not. It's only like a limit if you choose it, like if you want it to be like that. You can buy a boat and put it in storage or put it at your mate's place or do this, or you can buy a motorcycle and you know what I mean? Like your life is only stopped by how far you think you can take it.
100%.
So if you're sitting there consuming all this great media, which it is great to watch,
it's
but
amazing, yeah.
Then you get confused. Then you just start only watching that going and start daydreaming.
Yeah.
And the reality of it is like shut your fucking laptop. Get out there and like go do it.
Yeah, use it to a point where it's like, because it's inspiring some of the stuff these guys do. Like it does inspire you and it gives you ideas. Like the second it gives you that idea, shut the computer and go out and do it yourself.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly, and that's what I've noticed. I was like, man, I'm really I'm like really getting into this shit, but I'm actually like, I was like, I should be moving and doing it myself.
Yeah.
I've actually got a really good stat from that event. So our existing audience and network, etc., is like all hardcore fishermen, like really good fishermen, and then we just assumed they'd all cross over to this new event. And like Benny said, we found out that like thousands and thousands of people were from capital cities and all over Australia and all around the world. And then we actually cross-reference all the new audience with our existing network, and only 187 people from our existing network crossed over to the new event.
Yeah. We thought they'd just jump on it straight away. They'd be like, oh, this is sick, but Because they go out and do it. They go out and do it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
they're just doing it. They don't want to sit at home and pay for it. Yeah.
I mean, it's terrible for you guys as a business, you know.
A little bit. Yeah. It's like, I thought you had a bat.
Financially, it's not that great, but
Nah.
it's cool because I think that's, you know, Mason, looking at him right now, I know he's from the city, he's from big old Sydney. It is true though, like a lot of people are sitting there in their apartments with the rat race constantly going, and they're like, man, I could just, you know, once a year I might get this opportunity if my wife lets me, if my girlfriend lets me, if my boyfriend lets me. I don't know, like, because there's chicks that love this stuff as well. Bonnie is a prime example.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think you just like, I don't know how, it's like there's no other way to say it. It's like literally just go and do it. Buy a single tent and just go camp out in the.
Yeah,
like,
you'll be hell shit at it the first time you do it, but it'll probably go balls up. But
100%
you'll get better.
But you will get better. And that's the whole. That's
you'll
the
find out if
experience.
you love it or not, or if you just like watching it. If you actually like doing it, or if you just really like watching it. And I think if you like watching it, you know, there's something deep down inside of you that's sort of begging you to go do it.
I think it's the human experience though. We all like adventure, whether it's going on an adventure to go to an art show and like get caught up in the city race, or you are adventurous and want to go out on a boat. And I think as humans, we all just want that excitement. Like we all want to live at and operate at that like full on endorphin level where we're like, man, we love this. I'm with my friends. Like this is exciting. Like I'm getting out here and I'm like having this wholesome moment that I'm always going to cherish.
Real. It's like real.
It's like, and it's so hard to find real these days because there's so much media. Like the good thing about media is that you can sit there and watch it, and the shit thing about media is it makes you feel shit if you watch too much of it.
It absorbs it, It can absorb it, That's why I don't have social media, everyone.
So ladies, sorry, but you're not going to be able to find
taken. So beat it. Unless I won't say it.
Are you taken, Dino?
No, he's not. Dino's not.
Good to go. I was taken all last year by the job, but not this year.
Yeah, how was that? So when you like you unveil this crazy ass event and it's all lit up and then it's finally settled. A friend of mine once he was talking about he was on Survivor and he was like, you know, he goes, there's all this media around you constantly and like it's you're operating at this high frequency for a very long time and then you get kicked off and then that's it. And then you're kind of like walking around the shops and people looking at you and you're starting to get this weird feeling, but it's only because the high is starting to come down now where you're not doing that anymore. And he's like, you're kind of left wondering like, all right, well now, like, what are we doing? Like, what's the next kind of thing? And he said he was kind of in a bit of a slump there for a while, like trying to figure out.
Yeah.
Did you guys feel anything like that? Like after you just like, cause this 2-year build up of like building this event and then it finally comes out and it's going ham. Did it slowly come down and you're like, oh shit? Or were you just like, bang, next thing,
We're just
we're
getting
going.
warmed up.
Yeah, that was just a warm up when you like we
just had to like rest a little bit, lick the wounds.
I had to go fishing a bit. I didn't fish for like 4 weeks. It was gnarly.
I didn't fish for 12 months.
I don't know how I did it.
I didn't freaking go. I didn't like chat chicks. I didn't do fucking nothing. I sacrificed every single part of my life to pull that project off.
Yeah.
That's why the second it was finished and I like told you about that moment, like I was just like, holy, it's done. We're good.
Yeah, it's like that weight is just
like,
yeah.
Yeah, it's just like I'm gonna live a different life this year.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I think it's sick.
Yeah, no, I think we just had so many things like lined up, so we definitely like we have the whole year planned out, which is really cool.
Yeah, we're always working 2 years in advance.
Yeah.
So like whatever you're seeing now, we started working on that 2 years ago.
Yeah. I think some good stuff. So in terms of business is like map it out. You're better off mapping it out and just having those goals because I mean, before you start a business, you do a business plan, right? And you have those goals you want to hit and those like those targets. The second you're in your business and you're operating and you're sort of like it's you're like, oh, I'm not going to fail at this. You kind of like everyone tells you to like go back and do your business plan again, but you don't really need to go back and do your business plan. You just set those goals and do that roadmap and just make sure you sort of like stay on track and don't ever become complacent.
So going back into like, oh man, I really got to start saying that word. Like
I've seen your little thing. Yeah. he's like, I really got to stop saying like, and then he's like.
It's the worst word. When I started the podcast, I thought I was quite articulate and intellectual, you know, and then I feel like since I've been living in the sunny coast, it's slowly just started declining.
Don't blame us.
I'm blaming. No, no. I think it's just because I stopped reading and stopped actually.
Start talking.
Yeah. So I'm trying to get back to that. You know, this is the year. This is the year for me.
Just learn a new word every day, mate.
That's right.
Yeah.
I try to do one word a day.
I like that.
But what I was trying to say was, when you guys were touching on business and how you had your business plan, how did that kind of look? Because I know a lot of people, especially people that listen in my industry, like the creative industry, which is your industry too, obviously, but I think a lot of creatives struggle with business, and like that always seems to be like the bane of their existence. Like they're really good at creating, but then they can't correlate the two together to make it a really successful business because their business area is lacking. So like what does it kind of look like for you guys in the background? So when you're building an event, you got the whiteboard out, you're just running through like ideas and what would look good and like sponsorships, like how does that all kind of work?
Well, I think that's a really good question, and we sort of come together from a background in business. Like I said before, like I had a couple of businesses that went really well and then some that didn't go so well, and Benny's also had a couple of businesses as well. So when we first sort of like linked up at the start, we already had a business background, like, and we knew the ropes, and we knew we could build something from scratch no matter what it was. And that sort of gave us a lot of our, I don't know, like inspiration and like,
Yeah.
what's the word I'm looking for here?
Structure.
No, then like we just knew that no matter what we wanted to do, we could fucking do it.
Yeah.
It's like the confidence because
yeah,
you knew
it's
that.
the
Like,
confidence. That's the word.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus Christ.
we got the guys.
yeah, we could just.
I was like, what's he trying to think?
Yeah, we could just do it, and then I guess like our business chats, we just know like we just set the end goal. We work out what it looks like. We put a date on it, and then we work out all the steps it's going to take to get to that end goal.
Yeah.
And then we just work out when we're going to press the go button. When we hit the go button, we just get to work.
Yeah.
And it's like every single time we just tick off all the steps and we get to the end and it's done.
Yeah, so you guys start at the end. You're like, all right, we want this to reach 100 million people, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then you're like, all right, to get to 100 million people, all right, let's go to square one. So we need to do marketing. We need to do this. We need to do that. And then you slowly just prioritize what you guys need to do and then slowly like work towards that.
Yeah, like it's like that many thing before. It's like set the goals. It's like you want to timeline everything and you want to map stuff out and just try and hit goals, whether that's big ones or small ones, even daily ones. It's like map your stuff out and just try and stay on track. And I guess a good thing is to do is like get your idea. Like we have a mentor, like a business and life mentor, and her big thing is like where do you want to be? Where is it? Like picture that, and then you take the steps to get there. So it's like don't
it's not
sort
just
of go.
the project. It's like your life, like who you want to be, where you want to be, and what that looks like.
It's
and
everything.
Then you work out how you get to the end of your project and make your life like that.
Yeah, so I guess it's like think about your ideal position and then work out how, and then sort of work back on how you're going to get there. That's a good bit of advice in terms of business, because it's kind of people get sort of a bit caught up in terms of like I'm a creative straight up. Like I will hands down say it. I've just had some really cool people mentor me and teach me some cool shit about business and I guess I can make sense of it. So it's like you're sort of like when you're a creative, you're sort of like so passionate about this, that, the other. You just get absorbed in like the smaller things. You know what I mean? You really get stuck in your day to day. Yeah, your head.
It's like the image and the imagination's there, and you're thinking you're running all these crazy things.
Straight
but
up.
you're not. Now I'm trying to think. You're not like categorizing them down and like breaking them down to where you can like digest them and
make them achievable and So I guess like because you do it as a creative, like I know it, I still have to stop myself sometimes. I get caught up in my day to day. Like I'm like I get a fishing goal and then I'm like all of a sudden my day's gone. I'm like, oh, I did that again. Like it's kind of like I think a big thing is like think about where you want to be and your ideal position and then map out how to get there.
I think it's having help too. Like Benny's, as he said, he gets caught up in there, and I know when we're ready to move on to the next stage. It's like, righto, Benny, we're here now. Yeah. And then he does the same thing there, and then we move on to the. And it's like, righto, Benny, we're here now.
Yeah, it's like the yin and yang. Like you're more like calm in the mind.
Yeah. Dano's just calculated, and I'm just like a million miles an hour and everything, which I am straight up. Like I was like dead set. The reason we were late, like I'm late to everything because I'm doing shit all the time. Like
it's fine.
No, but Dino sort of just pulls it together, like, and then he's like, "Right, we're here. Let's get this done." And I come in and get it done, and it's like it works perfectly like that. It really does. It probably pisses him off a lot, but
Oh, I feel like I'm in your boat.
It's a good problem to have.
I need the other person. I need you sitting here so I can, because I message all my friends and they're like, we've had enough. We've had enough of hearing your shit, you know. Like, you give me especially because I work away at sea, so I'm gone for a whole entire month.
Oh, really?
When you put me out, like so people tell me I have ADHD, but you know it's undiagnosed, and I don't want to hear about it. You know, you
don't want Ritalin.
And I tried it once, and I was like laser focus. I was like, oh shit. So maybe I do, but I don't know. But when you're out at sea and you're by yourself and your mind's always going a million miles an hour, I'll come up with 20 different ideas, and I'm like, we need to execute this, and then I get to the execution word, and I'm like, how? Yeah, I don't know how I'm going to do that. I don't know what that looks like, and I always want to have like a mentor, and I want to try to find someone who can, because especially when like for this, like to build this now where it is like there's plenty of content, there's plenty of media, but now it's like you need to get sponsorships, you need to get like an actual business structure
that next
plan, because you're like if you don't get there you may as well just stop kind of thing. So that's what this year's about, is like really trying to like you know like kind of streamline it into one particular area to make it for everyone. Like same, I have the same as you. Like I want to build a community. I want people to have opportunities, and I want to start. This isn't the only, like this is just a start, because what's going to come is like even bigger, to create opportunities like you guys are doing. Yeah. So I can sympathise when like you guys, and it's great that you have Dean to like, nah mate, we just relax. Things are fine. So it's all
it's more like I'm like off with fishing, and he's like, bro, it's time, and I'm like, righto, whip it into gear, let's go.
Turn the boat around.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's it's kind of like that. It's kind of like I'm very last minute with all my shit, but I get it done, don't I?
Absolutely, every time, 100% all the time. We always get it done.
We get it done.
Yeah. The second half of your question there, I've actually got some really good advice for like some of the listeners or whatever, because you mentioned like a lot of the creative guys like struggle with the business side of things, and I sort of said that we both come from business backgrounds, but I can speak for both of us here that we both come from business backgrounds. But when that all sort of like turned to shit, and I had no money, and then I actually didn't know how those businesses worked internally. Like you'd pay an accountant, you'd pay everyone to do what you needed to do. And then when I actually was like doing the initial stages of SCF, I didn't have a cent. I had like negative hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I was like, I need to do all this myself. Yeah. Like there was just no other option, and I had no friggin' idea what I was doing. So I just started asking questions and started having a crack at everything. And like over the years, I ended up understanding every single aspect of what needed to be done, and I just taught myself. Like I just asked people, I just looked online, like I just did all the things you need to do, and I just put the time into like learning it. And then at some stage, like maybe 2 years ago, I knew everything. I knew every single aspect of the business. I knew how to do every single thing we needed to do, and I did that for a couple of years. And then now we're at a stage where I can put my energy into stuff I'm better at, and I sucked at all this, and now we are paying people to do X, Y, Z and stuff like that. But the fact that I actually understand that start to finish, I know what they're doing. We're doing it on a shoestring budget because I know how much work's actually going into it. And I think, the answer to your question is anyone can learn. Like, I'm a friggin' Boilermaker. You know what I mean? And look what I'm doing. Like,
it's true. Yeah,
it's important to like know your business, know your numbers. Like that's a big thing. It's like knowing where you're at and where you want to be. It's so critical. It really is, because if you get to the point like you said, it's like it's something like what you're doing may have started off like I want to do a podcast, and then it's kind of you're killing it, and it's like a passion project. But then it sort of gets to that next level where you're like, righto, it's like, if I either need to start doing this like on the next level, or just, otherwise my mum's going to be like, why are you doing that? You're not getting, you're going to get a real job, and you're like, fuck, you're like, I want people to take me seriously. You're like, you know what I mean? Like,
my uncle, so my uncle lives on the coast here, and he's similar to my dad. My dad, they all say the same thing. I gave him a call a few months back. He's like, oh mate, what have you been up to? Rah, rah. I was like, oh yeah, I've been working, but I've been running this podcast. And he was like, you're still doing that?
Don't listen to him, bro.
I was like,
don't fucking listen to him.
Hey.
Don't hit him, he's your dad, but or your uncle, but don't listen to him, man.
It wasn't necessarily like, I don't really listen to anyone. If anything, I actually thrive off that. But it was just those words. It's like, oh, you're still doing that. I'm like, you know what? Now I'm just I'll prove.
Thank you for fueling my fire.
I'm like, oh no dramas. Like, but. And that's fine. Like, it's great that people, they don't see it for what it is, because like they're old school. Like they come from like, get married, get a business, like get a house, rah rah. But I think in this day and age, everything's so different. And like, not to use Brody Moss all the time, but like, look at that guy, electrician, got really sick, decided that, you know, I'm just going to start filming. And then people got around it. And then all of a sudden now he's making millions. And all he does is fish and ride his jet ski and have a hot missus.
Booty.
You know, do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
it's that, it's not
cool,
that
bro.
simple, but it is that simple if that makes sense. It's like,
It is, bro.
it's simple to make the content and it's simple to do what you love.
Yeah.
And then obviously he's thought about it and invested more time into the business side of it. And then it's turned into something creative.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan, same thing.
Same thing, yeah.
Doing a media thing, like doing Fear Factor and all that crap.
Yeah.
And then just started a podcast on a plane.
Yeah.
That was his first episode, was on a plane. And now he's getting paid $100 million by Spotify. Spotify to put his episodes up. Do you know, like the world is endless
100%.
to what you want to achieve, as long as you just keep driving and keep giving it a go.
100%. And that's, the crazy thing about this world that we live in. It's like opportunity is endless. It's like there is no limit to what you can do, and it's kind of it comes down to you and what you believe in you can do, and how hard you want to push. And if you push and manifestation is a thing, ladies and gentlemen, by the way. If you think
and now we're going to join into my...
this is my yoga class. We're going to put on some samba music, and I'm going to teach you about manifestation. No, but straight up, like
It is a thing,
on
it
a more chilled level than yoga. Yoga's good, but it is good, mate. I did it for like 4 months, 6 months, hardcore, 2 times a day, and I got taller by an inch, and I need that shit, you know. Look at my shoes.
if we want to know...
Did you just say you manifested an inch of growth?
No, I didn't manifest it. I'm just saying yoga, bro. Like, yoga's legit.
If we want to know any success story tonight, it's going to be that Benny has grown an inch taller.
I'm saying that fucking yoga's legit. And, like, you get taller if you do it right and you do it enough. But anyway, I got taller and it was... But yeah, manifestation... Fucking shut up.
It is. No, I do know what you're saying.
Straight, like
it
it's
is,
kind
it
of
is.
like
if you envision it, and so for example, like the podcast.
Yeah.
I'd been talking about this podcast for 12 months.
Yeah.
People probably got sick of hearing me.
Yeah.
And then I told one friend one time, like Mitch, who like works behind the scenes. I talk about him all the time on the podcast.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know, when we first met, you come into the film store and you was chatting about starting this podcast. Yeah. And he's like, when you left, he's like, I actually think this guy's gonna do it.
Yeah.
And then he's like, literally, like 2 months later, you had this thing started, and I was like, he was sitting back, he's like, man, that's crazy. Like,
yeah, it's cool.
And it's the thing, if you picture what you want, there's actually, so the first person that I used his studio, Dan, absolute legend, he's really into this kind of stuff, and he would print out a picture of the car that he wanted. He's like, all right, I can't remember what it was, but he'd print it out. And then he's like, I look at it every day and I think it to myself, like, what am I doing to get me to that? And I was like, that's so true, because like if it's in your face all the time and you're like thinking about it, you're going, all right, sweet. Same with like the Top Water Invitational, was that right?
Yeah, you got it.
Got it right?
Yep.
Yeah, same thing. You'd have been like, all right, this is what we're going to do. So then you put it out on the whiteboard and you're like, all right, you're drawing it up and you're like, all right. And then every day you walk into the office, you're like, all right, okay, how are we doing this? Is it going? Is it going?
Yeah.
And that's what happens. You just start manifesting all this stuff. And then all of a sudden, the best thing that I've found doing this is that if you just show up and do the episode or whatever it may be.
You're on your way.
You're on your way. And then on top of that, people will see that and they resonate with someone actually giving it a go. And then all of a sudden, all these opportunities that you didn't even see come and start opening up. And you're just like, oh my God, like.
It's happening.
And then it just starts rolling and the ball starts rolling and you're just there. And all you're doing is just turning up and that's it.
Yeah.
It doesn't, I can't tell people. Like
it's the most powerful fucking force, I swear to God. And it's like, it's free, by the way. You don't have to pay for it. There's no subscription. Shut up. Jinx, you can't fucking talk anymore.
If you want to grow, though, that's going to cost you.
Yeah, yoga costs you, especially 2 times a day in a real nice studio, kind of like this, with a hot yoga teacher. That's not, anyway. Hang on. So yeah, like man, it is a serious thing, and I think a manifestation is kind of like people kind of scoff at it, but I think it kind of ends at the like once you envision it, and you start to like show up, it's like you're on to the next thing. And the craziest thing I remember saying to Deano a few times is like when you start believing in that and you start moving forward and showing up, it's kind of things will happen to you, and you'll hit these like pinnacle moments that you'll just. Like, because you're so busy and you're moving forward so fast, it's like this thing will pop up and you'll be like, oh, yeah, that's sick, rah. And then bang. And then a week later, you'll be like, oh, my God, dude. Like, and you'll actually like settle and have a minute to yourself while you're doing yoga, getting taller, and be like, you know, you'll be like, holy shit, like, that's like that 2 years ago, that to me was like the biggest fucking thing ever. Like for that to happen, like that was like my ultimate manifestation goal. Like it was a huge goal 2 years ago, but because you just move through it so fast because you're sort of moving forward and you're like, holy shit, you don't even get time to sort of like check yourself on it. You know what I mean? So once you sort of get that momentum, it's like you're like,
it just keeps happening.
Moly.
Yeah, you're on to the next
and
thing.
you're already thinking about.
That's how I got here.
Yeah,
that's exactly how I got here. I was
It's
like,
crazy.
I started this podcast and I was like, all right, and I was going full guns blazing.
Yeah.
Because you always get that like honeymoon period of when you start a project, you're like, I am all in. There's nothing can distract me.
Yeah.
And then that kind of fades off, but then you just keep pushing along. And I was like, I'm gonna get a studio. Like I really want a studio. Rah rah. And then I had the girls from the TTK Collective come on. And then we were just chatting like after the podcast. I was like, yeah, I'm looking for a studio. Like I'd like to get some merch and rah rah. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, like the next morning. So like they left and didn't say anything about it. And I was like, whatever, like a great podcast, no worries. And then Mama Janelle, she literally sent me a voice message. She's like, hey mate, we really want to do merch for you and help you out with all that stuff. And then on top of that, we also have like if you want to bring your podcast here and have a studio space, we want to help you out with that as well.
That's sick.
I was like, man, like I was just like far out. Like because like you, it's a lot of hours. Like when you're not getting paid, like this is the other thing. There's some creative jobs that you get paid for instantly.
Yeah.
There's no pay. There's none of this gets paid for.
No.
The amount of money I've invested already, and and I don't care, but like it becomes like full on passion because you're not making money, and if you don't push it, no one else, everyone has blinders on in their life. Everyone's just trying to get by. They wake up, drink their coffee, go to work, go home. Hopefully they don't get like in any trouble. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if you're like pushing and pushing, it's only you. You're the one that's got to maintain the rage and keep going. So when those little moments, it's good to sit back and reflect and go, oh shit, like the same with the top water thing. I'm sure that now that you've done, you're like, man, all that heartache, all that stress, all this, it's like far out now. This is it. Like
we're on. Yeah, it's kind of, and man, it's super important to do that as well. And it's to like it's never great to sort of you don't ever want to like sort of give yourself praise before you do something. You know how you like talk about something, you talk about too much. You do it when you're younger. I did it.
Dude, my mate.
I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And people like kind of like, and then you don't do it. And people are like, man, just tell me when you're done.
That's
it.
what
like,
my mate said. He literally said this last podcast. I don't know if it's in the video. He was like, he's like, there's something about keeping what you're doing to yourself. Yeah, he's like, because you start giving your energy away every time you say that.
And you get this false. You get people saying, "Oh, it really
cool." It zaps your energy.
It's literally, it does.
Well, and they give you like this. You get like like a false sense of accomplishment from people when you tell them a rad idea and they go, "That's rad," and you're like, "Oh yeah, I've kind of already done it." Like
exactly that. It's like you give that energy away. So then you're like, I'm sure if you were telling everyone about like that event, you'd have been like, oh yeah.
We couldn't tell anyone. We were like locked and key on that one. Yeah, because it was like.
But you know what I mean? It's like
straight
because
up.
people do. They're like, oh yeah, that's fucking sick, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm already a celebrity. It's like no. You're just giving that energy, that like motivation, drive. It's done now. You're like the flame's already burnt out. Whereas if you keep it in,
it gets you there. That's for sure. And I guess it's like, but when you do achieve something cool, I think it's really important to sort of like have a moment to absorb that and give yourself a pat on the back, because otherwise you just move through and you sort of like.
We're due for a big one of them. We sort of haven't had a chance yet too, eh?
Oh yeah, we're gonna go on a little man holiday.
It's like after this, the boys are like, let's go.
Nah, that's gotta be better than that.
There is something to be said though, like especially for like I think for younger people that if they are listening, like especially with guys, like you catch a big fish or something. And like when I was younger growing up, I don't know what it's like now because I don't have a kid and I'm not a parent. But when I was growing up, it was like pretty much frowned upon to be proud of yourself. You know, like especially in Australia with the tall poppy syndrome, everyone's like, bro, don't, like just keep like whatever. And you're just like, what the like? There's no need to do that. Like if you, like I said, if it's something stupid as like or as small as catching a fish, and you're like, I've been waiting to catch that specific breed of fish for so long, you know. Then sit back and just
enjoy it.
Enjoy the moment. Like. Sit there on the boat for 5 minutes and you go far out, man. I caught that fish, or you know, you get the studio and you're like, shit, like I've been working hard. Like it doesn't mean that you're gonna just diminish all your energy because you're like, I've made it. It's like no, it's not that. It's just going, all right. Yeah, I acknowledge that this is really good, and now I'm gonna move on to the next thing. And now this gives me enough energy to go, all right, what's the next big step and what's the next one? And
I just like smile to yourself, give yourself a pat on the back, and recognize that you made it to where you made it, and you're capable to get to wherever you want to get, because obviously that point yourself a year before then was like skeptical as hell that you could ever get there. You know, it was like the biggest thing in the world. It's like, can I get to that point? Can I make that move to have my own business, et cetera, et cetera? So yeah, like give yourself a pat on the back, and then once you sort of have that first pat on the back, realize that you can do whatever the fuck you want. So just go do it.
Was there any other moment between you two boys, like when you go right back to the start, when this all first started, and you're sitting in the, where was it, lounge room? Was it garage?
That was a car. Oh,
the main one was a car.
It was a car. Yeah, it was a car ride.
And like when you're both like sitting there talking about it, and then you start like manifesting this, and you're thinking of it.
It was done. It was signed, sealed, delivered
Yeah,
by the time we
weird.
got to 1770. We knew we'd be here doing this by the time we pulled up the boat ramp that day.
Yeah, it was weird how like good it felt, and I guess no, we pulled up at the servo and she all went out the window.
Yeah, dude.
Dino had fucking lined up. Sorry. Dino had lined up this camera guy, right? He's like, all right, I won't say.
Stories are just the untold stories of the boys.
But yeah,
but they know what they're doing. But I just
like he was a bit of a legend. He just got out of the psych ward, and literally his dad drove him to where we were to meet us. It was psycho, but yeah, let's leave that there.
it was fun. It was a good.
Yeah, but I think they're the moments that you need to. It adds to the story.
Yeah,
you're like, oh, that's right, life's real.
We were on the biggest high ever, like ready to have the best couple of days ever.
Oh, we still did. I still had a crack.
Yeah. Oh no, you didn't. You lost your rod like 1 hour into it. You're square. Yeah.
I heard rods are quite expensive.
Oh, they are.
Especially that one is top of the range.
I didn't realise that. So when I sailed from India to Indonesia on my uncle's catamaran.
Oh, that's sick.
Not a flex, by the way. And he just had like fishing rods and stuff. And I didn't realise, like, you know, the pen reels.
Yeah.
I was like, how much is that reel? He's like $900.
Like an international or something.
Yeah, it's like some big silver, like just monster.
Yeah.
On one of those like short, like strong ass ocean rods.
Yeah, for trolling up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have no idea about fishing, so I was like, oh yeah, let's go with this. I was like, oh, I should buy this setup. He's like, mate, you couldn't afford that setup. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, that reel is like $900.
Yeah.
He's like, let alone the rod. I was like, is fishing really that expensive?
Oh yeah. When you either take the step into like buying expensive stuff, it's expensive.
It is.
And it breaks quickly when you use it a lot. Like,
yeah, it doesn't last long.
No. The salt water, salt water does damage to things pretty quickly.
Everything.
Everything.
I work on saltwater and it ruins every single thing.
What are you on, like offshore like rigs or something?
I work on tugboats out of Darwin.
Oh, sick.
So I move freight from Darwin to remote islands.
Do you drive tugboats?
I don't drive. I'm on the decky on there.
That's rad, dude.
Yeah, it's mad.
That's cool.
But everything gets destroyed. Everything's rusty.
Yeah, you'd see some cool shit like being on the water that much.
Heaps crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I got heaps. I'll show you videos later.
Yeah,
but yeah,
sick.
It's wild. Like
That's
you see
cool.
dolphins swimming in front of the boat all the time.
Yeah. How cool is the ocean? It's just the best thing in the world.
You know what? This is actually, I will say this is one of my gripes about people on the ocean. I don't know if anyone does this listening, but I know for a fact that commercial fishermen do this.
Yeah.
They throw their cigarette butts
in
the ocean. If you smoke and you fucking throw your
up.
cigarette butts in the ocean,
that
is not cool.
That's
because
not cool. Or even out your window when you're driving.
Yeah,
that's
littering just in
gnarly.
general. But this is the thing that gets me the most about people that are on the ocean. I'm like, you love the ocean because you're working on the ocean, right? You live off the ocean. So wouldn't you think that you'd want to protect the thing that you work on because you might not be able to do that later on in life.
Well,
instead, you're throwing cigarette butts. I'm like, I don't understand.
Smokers don't give a fuck about their own life. Why would they give a fuck about the ocean?
Well, I do, so chill out, right?
Bombs, dropping bombs.
Dude, that's massive because I think it comes down to education, but bro, like it's kind of like industries like commercial fishing, they're mostly generational, but they're passed down through generations because like there's the way the licensing works and all that kind of stuff, and that's something we're big with our business is like education and like junior development and sort of, I guess like just we want to change the culture around the sort of certain mentalities in the fishing industry, and we want to change it from the sort of the grassroots because I mean 10 years from now, like if you have the right attitude when you're sort of 15, 16, and everyone has that same attitude, like in 20 years from now, it's there's no more bullshit.
Sorry, if you are listening, we have had a couple of breaks in between because the conversation's just been flowing. But what we were talking about was the positivity between like bringing up, like how does it look for you guys when you were bringing, like you're trying to educate people on like environmental side of things and things. Yeah. Those, I'm just gonna stop saying.
Yeah, well,
things.
Don't say things anymore.
Stop saying.
And like, well, it's like nah, but That's what I say. That's
Wait,
my one.
Is that recording? Can you just check if that's good? Otherwise now. All right. Sorry.
Yeah, we're good.
Anyway.
Yeah, mine's but
But when you know about it, then
it's
it's really
bad.
hard not to,
It's
because
really bad.
you feel the words just coming out, and you can
Yeah.
see it just coming up along that. Like it's like a pokey roll. You can see it. You're like, oh no, it's about to come. Stop. Yeah.
Feature.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think at least this isn't to say, but I think from the start, Dean, like the SCF Instagram has been a big thing. It's kind of
and Facebook.
And it's basically like the whole thing's about reposting people's sort of posts, and I guess it's like the messaging starts there. It's you sort of, I guess Dean would like handcrafted the whole thing, and now he's trying to teach our younger trainees how to put the right pictures on the socials and send the right messages through imagery, which is quite quite powerful and kind of hard to do.
Sort of all come down to like no dead fish. Make sure they're being like held correctly.
They're handled properly. Catch and release is a big thing, because you don't always have to. Like, I'm all for going. I'm a chef. I love cooking everything, everything. If it grows,
Yeah, I should put you in contact. As a side note, I'm going to put you in contact with a friend of mine, Charlie. He runs Terra Firma, which what's the Argentinian? Asado.
Oh yeah,
he does
cool.
asado.
Yeah,
but he's like real big on like catching local and catching what you.
Yeah,
like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I think
he should come fishing with me.
Seriously, he would froth it. Like he goes fishing. Like, so I reckon I'll put you in contact with him, because I think like your brand plus his brand together at an event would be just unreal.
That'd be sick. I'd love to take him fishing and cook on some fire.
Anyway, sorry, I just cut you off.
But yeah, I think like I said, I'm a chef, so I love keeping fish to eat, but there's a big thing in the fishing industry, and just that whole old school mentality and just generational thing where people just go out and they just fill eskies full and just like probably handle fish not so well, and even if you catch something small and you've brought it up through the water column too fast, there's a thing called barotrauma, and it inflates the swim bladder, and there's ways to handle that properly, and so the fish can be released properly and healthy and swim back to the bottom instead of just floating on the surface, because it sort of. But there's all these things where it's there's been these attitudes that have just sort of been ingrained in the older generation, and that's not to say like it's all the older generation. It's just I guess where there's a spot Dean saw where there's an opportunity to change that mentality and change the attitudes around it, and it started through the socials, didn't it? It really did, yeah.
And then we started like having like career pathway opportunities for the younger fellas, and we started picking a couple of dudes who were doing really cool stuff in the space each year, and sort of nurturing them and teaching them more. And I actually think like over the years we've had like a major direct impact from our messaging here on the Sunshine Coast. Like, I believe the estuary fishing's actually better now than it was like back before we started doing this, and it's it's like the snowball effect. Like, you just have that impact on X amount of people, and then it moves on to everyone else, and then all of a sudden all those bad habits are frowned upon now. So like they're disappearing. Yeah. And
and a big thing for us is no matter what we do within our business operations, we integrate that messaging, that positive messaging, and those core values of the business, which is sustainable fishing, clean waterways, and future generations, into every single thing we do. It's something that just happens naturally now. It's not something that we ever think about. We're not like, have we integrated those values? It just is there.
We actually also forget to talk about it. Like, this is the first time we've mentioned it. This, like, during this chat, and that TFI event, we actually raised $18,000 for fish habitat restoration here in Queensland, and some money for the Great Barrier Reef Foundation, and a sawfish awareness program. Like, we're actually doing like really cool stuff off the back of all the really cool stuff we're doing.
And also just with the TFI thing, like there was criteria, which is kind of like back end bonus points that we integrated.
That wasn't public
knowledge at all, and it hasn't been in it. And this is probably the first time it'll get talked about. But we had an adjudication panel that was made up that consisted of I guess authority figures from the marine industry, in terms of like fisheries and all that sort of stuff. There was an Indigenous representative, just people that sort of that nature came together, and they watched the films first, and they were in charge of allocating these bonus points, which were positive messaging points. So if we had things in there like you got bonus points if you picked up a piece of rubbish and you integrate and you somehow put that into your film, which is a big thing to ask a content creator to do. It's like you've got this visionary thing and it's all arty and like let's just say you like doing this whole beautiful thing and then you go pick up a piece of rubbish, you know, like oh look I found a piece of plastic. It's kind of like so it was. We asked them to integrate all these really positive messaging, fish handling, all
cultural heritage,
heritage, cultural
local awareness of their area,
all that kind of stuff. We had all this messaging that was a criteria for these guys. They it was optional, but everyone went with it, and which is really cool.
That's sick.
The end product was 10 out of 10.
Yeah. So I guess back to it is like in terms of how do we sort of I guess go about getting that messaging out there, and it just happens now. It's just something that because the whole business is built around it. It's just like I said, like we don't even think about it anymore. It just every single thing we do has those core values and that messaging in it.
We've sort of ended up in this niche, which is who we are as people and who the business is, and we have no competitors. Like that's just us, and the sky's the limit, really.
Yeah. We always said we just wanted to feel good. Like we just were like. We always still say we're like Dan, because when I got into it, Dan's like, "Hey, bro, just heads up. There's a lot of politics in this fishing thing, like in the industry." And I was like, "Really?" Like, and I've seen a few of it. I've seen some stuff play out, and I've been like, "Wow." But I remember saying, I was like, "Let's just keep it straight and like make sure it feels good, and we're doing it for the right reasons, and let's never get involved in any of the bullshit, and just stay in our own lane, and just like, that's what we're about."
You are. There's my friend Benny. He said when you're in your own,
Go for it.
When you are in your own lane, there's no traffic. And I 100% believe that you boys are legit. Yeah. I'm not even like, I'm not.
There's no traffic. Yeah.
I feel like at one stage we hit the freeway and we had to look around and we're like, hang on, what's going on here? Like,
you were so much at the forefront. Like, I remember when I spoke to Bonnie, like, she's a beautiful, lovely lady. Yeah. But like, when I was chatting to her about it, because we'd met previously before all this, and she was like, "Oh no, I'm doing this. I'm working for this company. They're doing this and doing that." And I'm like, "Oh," like she was so stoked. Like she couldn't speak highly enough of like what you boys are doing. I was like, "Man, I need to come." She's like, "Just come to the event. Like, trust me, just come and you like to see what I'm talking about." I was like, "Righto." And I came and I was like, "Man, you could genuinely just see it. Like, there's like true authenticity when it comes to what you guys are trying to do. There's no like bullshit. There's no nothing. You know what I mean? Like it's so rare to find now, especially with a company that's like building to be something greater, but their core values stay the same and they're still like pushing to just that, like they're just like, no, it doesn't matter what else happens, this is what we're doing, and then everyone else is just going to start to follow.
That's exactly what's starting to happen too. Like,
it's cool to see that, because it's like, I guess like people gravitate towards like shit that feels good, right? Like at the end of the day, and like I guess looking after the environment. And like for anyone that's an outdoors person, surfer, fisherman, four-wheel driver, kayaker, someone that runs on the side of the road or rides bicycles in Lycra or whatever, you know, you're out in nature. You're out in nature and you like...
Right, we're going to have to stop this.
Let's just cut this off
now.
You're
kind of like, man, you get it. Like it's a primal instinct, and it's kind of like everyone responds to... Like, you know, the environment, mate, it makes you feel good, and it's kind of...
Well, that's what it's there. It's like, it's so therapeutic for a lot of people, and it provides so much for so much. So, like, why would you not want to care for what you're putting, like, what you go out and do, you love so much, so would you not want to then go out and just protect? Yeah. It's like if your kid, like, you love your kid, if she was walking across the road or he was walking across the road, I can guarantee you'd put yourself in front of that car to save your kid. So why would you not go do the exact same amount of effort for something that you go out and do all the time? Like there's so many people that have had like severe depression or this, that, whatever. You know, they're going through a bad breakup with their partner and whatnot. And they go out to nature, they go camping, they might go fishing, whatever they do. And they come back and their whole life, their whole perspective on what they see is different. Because of nature, and because they've gone out and then they've done something that they truly love. So it's like, why would you not want to look after that?
I think that's what's happened to us as like from a young age. Like the sport of fishing is what led to like what we're doing now. Like our love for fishing become our love for the waterways and our love for what's going on, and wanting to like protect that and respect that and like make everyone else do the same thing. And I think that's I think that's
that
really
is straight
cool.
up what it is. And
I think
And if you stand up and sort of like and back yourself on that, other people respond to it. You know, like people just gravitate towards it. They just,
And it's good because like you guys are a lot older too. So like the younger kids that
what do you mean?
Hey, so, no, but as in like you're like mentor figures for younger kids that come through your like.
These kids are coming through, but I think I'm the same age as them. Like
Yeah,
they're
same,
the
man.
Oh,
boy. Yeah, we're just
wait,
the
no, wait, you're getting ahead of yourself. Just because I said you're old doesn't mean I said your maturity levels are gonna like.
Yeah, right.
Just because you got great.
Yeah, slow down, mate. No, but it's true. Like you boys are standing out there going, "Hey, this is how we do shit, and this is what we expect." And these kids that are like, "Yeah, I want to be a part of this business. I want to be a part of this fishing culture." Well, this is what we do now, and they don't even think twice about it because you're already just doing it. So they're like, "Oh, well, that's what it is."
That's right.
One thing that got lost over the years, and this is the first time I spoke about it in ages, is back at the start there was like a point where like we all sort of thought that maybe fishing would get banned at some stage. So the whole reason of like the formula for my event at the start was to use like good fishermen to collect data on the fish, so we understood what was going on, to show whoever, like if someone come and try to shut down fishing as a sport, we would say, no, look, we've been doing this for this data to like get an understanding of what we're doing. Like we're doing things for the right reason.
Yeah.
And that's all based off, we're doing it for the right reasons because we love what we do and we love the waterways. You know what I mean? So like, if it ever happened, we would probably be we'd probably be the only company in Australia that could actually fight against a fishery being closed.
Yeah, and I guess on a more like lesser level than that, like I have friends because I hunt.
He's going to start name dropping people.
No name
Right,
drops.
Jimmy, you need to sort your shit out,
Yeah,
right?
Jimmy.
We've had enough.
Jimmy. But like I've got like I'm pretty, like I said, I'm a chef and I like to like eat things that walk and grow and run around and stuff. And not humans.
Just babies.
But yeah, like I have really good friends that are like vegan, and we've had
Heated
conversations. We get into conversations, and I'm like, look, I guess I'm like on the extreme opposite to you guys. Like I'm like, I guess I understand, like I know more about the environment and more about the ocean and more about a fish species than any other person, like any vegan ever would or whatever, because I'm so passionate about it. And yeah, I like go out and catch them and I dispatch them and then I eat them. But it's kind of like I do that because I'm so passionate about it. Like I guess there's that fine line between like, I guess it's a hard discussion to have with someone that doesn't understand it. And I guess if fishing ever, there's like, when that Seaspiracy thing came out, that was pretty gnarly, right? Like there was some pretty big chats about ocean.
Oh, I haven't watched it, but I have heard it's pretty full on.
Yeah, and I had like heaps of people like, oh, fishing. I was like, oh my God, is this going to like, am I going to get shot for fishing? And there's people at the boat ramp and stuff. But I guess sort of we have good intentions in what we do, and that's the big thing is we care so much about our ocean, so much about the environment, and so much about making sure that it's still around for people to experience, because it is just
it's more sustainable though.
Yeah.
Like I think like recreational fishing compared to like commercial fishing,
oh man,
is polar opposites. Now I don't want to get started
It
on
is
commercial
polar
fishing
opposites.
because
Yeah.
I have a very bad taste in my mouth when it comes to people that commercial fish because I know what they do.
Yeah.
In saying
you
that,
would,
there is that's changing as well.
Yeah, that is
And
changing,
especially here in Noosa. There's some guys doing some really good stuff, and they're like,
There are
Like
some
it-
cool like
it is changing.
governing bodies that are really like focusing on educating commercial fishermen and changing the equipment they use and their sort of what do they call them, their catch rates, which is quotas, their quotas,
yeah, and it is changing, and which is great. But
and that's all off the back of, I guess, like people's just like and that's the big thing with anything that you do is like education is key. If you start, and that's the thing that we like, is like we start at the bottom, we start with the young guys, and they'll follow that through, and then all of a sudden, 20 years from now, no one's even talking about this shit because
and I think there's ways to educate. This is another big thing that I'm like passionate about. It's like if you, for example, like hunting, I know it's a pretty like taboo topic because a lot of people don't like it, but there's ways to like say to someone if they didn't like hunting, there's ways to go about it. Like if you across the world in any subject, if you aggressively come at someone about something that you're passionate about and don't respect how they're feeling and how they're receiving it, they're just going to turn around and be like, fuck you. Yeah, straight off the bat. It doesn't matter what topic you're talking about, anything. But if you just go, hey, this is my view, this is how I feel about it. How do you feel about it? And like, is there room for like we could like, you know, maybe you could educate me, maybe I should educate you. If people start that conversation like that, I can tell you now, things would just be a whole lot different.
It'd be whole
and there would be none of this like I feel like the whole entire world across everything at the moment is just like
Fight Club.
Yeah, it is. It's like Fight Club. Like,
Yeah.
this is my view. This is, and they just attack.
It's the internet because it like takes out all that middle conversation.
It takes
it's
out
like
the
this,
voice, man.
It's like this and this. There's no discussion to get to.
Yeah. That's why podcasts are so good because you actually get to hear people's voices.
Well, this is right. Like, you can imagine like all the people that listen to this, they might be vegan or whatnot, and they're like, oh, screw these guys.
Oh, I love it.
But you know, like, you don't know. Like,
respect. I think I have so much respect for vegans because they literally like, you guys are sacrificing flavor, which is as a person that loves food, I don't eat to fill myself up. I eat because I'm searching for flavors. So I'm doing. I'm on this like journey I'm on a constant foods furry.
I just think, and like whether you're vegan, vegetarian, you eat meat, you don't eat meat, or whatever, I think you're just on your own journey.
Oh, straight up.
And if you can help other people because what you believe in is, and you're passionate about that, and you might help someone else, and that's great. But you can only change what you can change.
Yeah.
What you can see is what you can change.
Yeah,
it's
100%.
really hard to change things that you can't see.
Yeah,
You interact with someone, you give them a smile.
Yeah.
You're going to change their day. You potentially could, like, you don't know what they're going through. You give them a smile.
Definitely.
That's like a very small level. Do you know what I mean?
Massive, yeah.
But it could change their whole entire life. Like you
man.
boys coming on right now, to me, I'm like I feel elated because I'm so glad that they've given me their time to come on. Like you never know what you're gonna do, but
if you voice show when you're famous.
That comes back to like just having like you like just make sure your intentions are good and that, you know, like I love animals so much and I like, trust me, my golden retriever, Ocean, he's like the love of my life. Dino hates him. Or he actually loves him.
He's like, I actually want to hunt you.
But he's a hairy dog. Like,
I don't like hairy dogs.
I see the whole side thing. I love animals. I love every living creature. I also think if I am going to eat any type of meat, I like to be responsible for how I collect it, how it's looked after once it's, you know, and how I process it and then how I cook it. So I like to like be responsible about the whole process. But I totally get like, if I was lazy enough to not, if I was too lazy to deal with that process, I would probably be veg or vegan. I straight up would because.
Well, I think in cities it works, you know, because it's that most people in cities, like you said, right way back at the start of this podcast, right? You're like, a lot of your viewers that when you started that event were coming from cities. A lot of people from the cities don't have the luxury of going out and catching their food and collecting their food, which is a massive thing.
It's a massive thing.
I think that's what I'm saying. Like, you don't know what someone.
That's right.
You don't know their environment, so it's okay for you boys because you can go jump on the boat, catch a fish, take it home to your missus. Good days.
Good days.
But some people can't do that. Like, they have to go to the shops and they have to buy, and that's
and that's a really cool thing about people. Like the whole thing changing, where people are trying to be more sustainable with the way they're like shop local and you know, like buying sustainably caught fish and all that kind of stuff. And you know, if you have the option to sort of, if you have to buy, or when you're going to buy meat, you know, you buy like something that's like of better quality or looked after better or whatever. So it's cool that there's so many options out there, and it is what it.
Yeah,
you know,
it's getting better. Like, and that's the best thing about the world. And this is what I think. It's like you stay in your lane. There's no traffic. Just do your best to try and make everyone else's life better, and then that's all you can do. Like, you'll feel much better if you just try to engage with the people that you can see and surround your friends, your family. Yeah. If you run into someone random, you just want to make everyone's life around you better. Bro. And if you can stick to that narrative, the rest of the world is going to be a much, much better place instead of trying to take each other's heads off on social media.
Yeah, definitely. Or just can't delete your social media accounts.
Or do what Benny does and just be non-existent.
Is that what it means when you don't have social media, that you're non-existent? I still have a phone number and like 4 email addresses.
Anyway. But is it, all right, before we get out of here, is there anything that you boys want to maybe just throw on the table as a little enticer for something that's coming up that you're not too sure about? Or if you don't want to say anything at all, I'll get on to the next part of this.
Probably like I mentioned to you before we come on, like we're in for a really big year this year. Like, we're hitting the international stage with this event, and we've only been back to work a couple of days, and the momentum, like we're off. Like, we're not just bloody snowball anymore. We're a slingshot, and we hit the go button on it a couple of days ago. So I think maybe we'll come back and chat to you X amount of time. And
Yeah, it'd be cool to see.
You will. You will. No, there's no maybes. You
I-
will come back
I
and chat to me. Thank
It'd
you.
be sick to see where you're at too.
yeah,
That'd
it will
real,
be.
Yeah.
But hopefully we'll come back with a couple of baller stories for you. Like let's talk about big boy stuff.
I think you're already doing big boy stuff, and so what's going to happen next is going to be like superstar, international level kind of things. That's what that's why I personally see what's going to happen.
Well, yeah, it'd just be cool to like, I guess, when you hit your goal, when you succeed, and when you sort of get to that point where you're like, oh my god, this is the dream about it stage. It's like it's so fulfilling, and it's infectious too, because it sort of like everyone around you, your family, your friends, and all those people, maybe people that are a bit skeptical on you and that said maybe, what, you're still doing that, or like blah blah blah. You know, it's infectious, and it gives everyone sort of like a bit of a boost. And like you said, it can sort of, I mean, I know for a fact that when I used to tell my mum, like, I'd be like, hey mum, I'm doing this, and she'd be like, okay, righto. And then a bit of skepticism there, and like, no shit, now I'm like, hey mum, I'm doing this, and I tell her this outlandish shit, and she's like, okay, all right, she believes me.
Yeah,
I can
like,
tell
oh,
that the
yeah.
okay is she believes me,
Yeah.
and it sort of it rubs off, like some of the stuff that my mum and dad do now, like just in terms of how they holiday or how they buy houses or whatever the fuck it is. It's like it kind of rubs off on them where they're just like they've got this sense of like, I can sort of like anything's kind of chill. Yeah, it can be done, and it's cool, man, to like see like it rubs off on people.
Happening with all my friends and family too. Like
Yeah, it's
like,
rad, dude. It's really cool. So it's infectious, and it's So I'm just excited to see.
I guess
to get to that point where it's like more.
we'd encourage the listeners to have a crack at it and
Yeah.
set those goals, work out what the end game looks like, and then put in the steps to get there.
Yeah.
Anything's possible.
And then message Deano on Instagram, and
If you want to chat with Benny,
because I love to hear the stories, because I love that stuff, man. I literally love hearing those stories, like people that get inspired and froth up and achieve shit. It's like the raddest thing ever.
Yeah, it really is.
It's cool as.
All right, this has been absolutely insane. Like the energy levels for me personally inside of my body right now, I'm like super stoked. But before we get out of here, there's two things that we like to do. Every time I say I actually mean me, because I'm the only one that runs this show. But you get to shout out a local legend or international legend who you think should come on the show. Oh, yeah. And then secondly, because there's two of you, you can decide, or you can both say something, but you get to give one piece of advice that you think needs to come across to someone to start their project or kickstart their goal in life for 2023.
A local, do we each get one? Or?
Yep.
Local
More the merrier.
Who should come on the show?
Local or international. I don't know who you know. So.
I'm thinking like you should get Nikki Fogden-Moore on your show, because she's a really cool woman.
She is a global superstar.
Yeah, she's
100%.
What's her name, sorry?
Her name's Nikki Fogden-Moore, and we'll give you her contact. She's rad as shit.
She's coming on.
She's
straight up. She'll blow your mind.
She'll do it
She's
too
cool.
if we tell her.
She'd love to do it,
Yeah.
bro. She's a really cool person.
Perfect.
She's like a superwoman. And then advice.
Yeah, I mean, you've pretty much been giving advice the whole entire podcast, so I don't really know how much is left, but
that.
I'm sure there might be something.
I do that from a place of love, like straight up. I don't know, just be kind.
Maybe come back to what I was saying, like how everything I was a Boilermaker, every single thing we're doing now, I know exactly how to do it all. I can see we know that we can do whatever the fuck we want to do, and we just need to put the work in to get there. So
you just got to put the work in.
Yeah, maybe just
Maybe.
if you want to do something, just start asking for help.
If you don't know how to do it,
just do the baby steps. You can learn anything you want if you try, and it doesn't matter how old you are. If you just start to learn what you need to know, you'll get there. Simple as that.
Yeah, and I guess, and my one, I guess, would be just if you want to do something, just try and just go do it, because the worst thing is the worst feeling is when you're like a year from now, you're like, oh man, I really wanted to do it and I should have done it then, and I've wasted all this time. It's kind of there's no time like now, and just put the wheels in motion, and everything's possible. Manifestation is a thing. It's not just for yoga students, and it won't make you taller, but
yoga might. Well, boys, this has been another amazing episode of Creative Appetite. I'm so grateful for Deano and Benny for coming on and sharing their experiences. And honestly, this is going to be a huge bloody year for the boys, and hopefully a huge year for the podcast. But for the rest of you listening right now, you understand what you need to do. Like, subscribe, share, tell your grandma about it, and hang around for the next one. Let's go.